In all the trials that we've carried out, the hives were fed 4 litres of activated syrup per hive, or with 1 gallon of activated syrup per hive in the autumn and again in the spring. So 4 litres in the autumn, 4 litres in the spring, and these are recommended feeding instructions. So the results that you see here now today are all using those feeding instructions. So this graph shows NOSEMA spore counts. So the orange line is the HiveAlive treated group's NOSEMA spore counts, and the navy line is the control group spore counts. And as you can see, the orange line is lower than the navy line. The HiveAlive group had less NOSEMA than the control group, and this difference increased over time. So at the end of the trial, the HiveAlive group had 57% less NOSEMA spores than the control group. So effect here can be twofold over winter. So we can target NOSEMA in the gut by feeding, but we can also target NOSEMA in the hive if the bees store the syrup with HiveAlive added to help keep the levels of NOSEMA low in the colony overall. Now, we have plenty of beekeepers reporting these findings to us too. So for example, there, a beekeeper in New Zealand, we test our bees for NOSEMA ceranae during spring and have found that it is very low or non-detectable levels when they're feeding HiveAlive. So just to note that these results are actually published in the Journal of Apicultural Research. So this graph shows colony population, and it was measured over the course of about a year and a bit. So again, the orange line here is the HiveAlive treated group's colony population. The navy line is the control group population. The green bars that you see there are the percentage difference between HiveAlive and control. So as you can see, the difference between the two groups steadily increases over time. By the end of the trial, the HiveAlive group had 89%, which is nearly twice as many more bees than the control group. So this also shows that the effects of HiveAlive are long-term. There's a gradual increase in the differences between the groups, and best results are seen with year-on-year feeding. So we get loads of feedback from beekeepers similar to this, with lots of reports that their hives are exploding with extra bees and growing like never before. Again, these results are in the Journal of Apicultural Research, so if you want to do more reading, check out that link I just sent in there. So yeah, with a few testimonials there from beekeepers at the bottom. So I saw an eruption in hives the first spring. I used it, from Chris in the US, and from Mike in the US as well. The results are dramatic, as my hives are growing like never before. We also have another trial to support the claim that HiveAlive gives more bees. So again, population was monitored over the course of a year and a bit. The orange line is the HiveAlive treated group's colony population, and the blue line is the control group population. The green bars are the percentage difference between HiveAlive and control, and again here the difference between the two groups steadily increases over time, which confirms our belief that HiveAlive is a long-term solution to colony health and not a quick fix. In this particular trial, colony population increased over 20% compared to the control. And again, we have testimonies from beekeepers saying it has made a huge difference to their brood production and honey production. And speaking of honey production, we'll actually move on now to look at the results from when we monitored honey production when HiveAlive was fed. So in this trial, the food stores were measured over the course of a year and a bit. Again, orange line is HiveAlive, navy line is control, and the green bars are the percentage difference between HiveAlive and control. So at the end of the trial, the HiveAlive group had 45% more honey than the control group. Again, this finding is also reported by beekeepers. So here we have a large Manuka honey producer from New Zealand. Actually, a lot of the Manuka honey producers in New Zealand have used HiveAlive and like it. So on average, production per hive is approximately 25% more, and the hives are more consistent in their production. So just one thing to note here is that all the results shown here demonstrate statistical significance, which can be hard to achieve. And if anyone wants to do any further reading on any of our trials, I'll actually just pop up a link to our Science Behind HiveAlive page. So if you're calling in from outside of Europe, you might get a warning to say visit your local website, but to view the full data, you must click on View the International website. Just to note that. So thanks for bearing with me there. So we'll move on to overwinter survival. So we tracked colony survival over winter. The control group had 15% losses, while the HiveAlive group did not have any. So we believe this is due to the fact that the hives are stronger and healthier going into winter and better able to defend against disease. Starting a long winter with a healthier gut is very important due to the fact that the bees are not able to get out for as many cleansing flights. So this makes HiveAlive particularly attractive to locations where there are tough, long winters. And a lot of beekeepers who use HiveAlive have reported similar findings, especially in locations further north. So for example, we have Nick in New York saying that the colonies we fed with HiveAlive last year have only 15% losses so far, compared to 25% for the rest. My colony loss rate during last year's brutal winter was about 10 to 15%. Other beekeepers in the province had overwinter losses of at least 50% in their colony. So that's from Peter Dickey in Ontario. And then another beekeeper in the US said, I feed HiveAlive in fall to boost hive size going into cold weather. It seems to strengthen the hive to handle colder weather. So just a quick comment then about American foulbrood and chalkbrood. So we carried out in vitro tests to assess the effect of HiveAlive on American foulbrood and chalkbrood. We can't make claims that we treat diseases, but we had heard a lot of reports from beekeepers, so we just wanted to investigate further ourselves. So we found that at feeding concentration, HiveAlive inhibits the growth of the bacteria that causes American foulbrood, inhibits the growth of the fungus that causes chalkbrood. And this is at feeding concentration. So you wouldn't use HiveAlive as a treatment for these diseases, but it does suggest that if we feed HiveAlive, we will keep the levels of these pathogens low and not let them get out of control. So Ireland actually has a damp climate, and incidents of chalkbrood can sometimes be common. And a lot of beekeepers reported that the reduction in chalkbrood incidence was one of the first things that they noticed when they started feeding HiveAlive.